과 꽃이 막 우거져 있잖아요.
그렇죠.
정말 많은 나무들이 곳곳에서 자생하는 정말 봄, 여름, 가을, 겨울 그 매력이 다 달라서 이런 것도 장점이 아닌가 생각을 해요.
우리나라의 매력에 빠져봅시다.
네.
와, 그래, 맞다. 자, 이거 내려왔는데 여기 근데 보면은 이렇게 저기 뒤에도 있고
네.
비석이 엄청 많아요.
비석이 많죠.
네, 와, 이거 엄청 큰데? 그러니까 저기도 있고.
네. 답을 주실 분이 여기 또 계시네요.
아, 그래요?
네.
아, 어르신이.
선생님 안녕하세요.
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 예.
여기 설립하신 분 맞으시죠?
예.
아, 선생님 안녕하세요.
설립이요?
예, 이 지금 수목원을 다 가꾸신 분이에요.
아, 진짜요?
예.
여기 이런 비석은 왜 이렇게 많은 거예요? 이렇게 비석이 곳곳에 다 있는데.
비석이 많은 거는
네.
민족 정기 광장이라고 했는데
네, 네.
저쪽에는 강개토항리에 조국을 위해서 이러다 가신 분들, 그리고 이제 우리가 3.1 운동에 해서 이제 몸을 바쳐서 말이지 막아냈다.
그러면은 어떻게 보면은 이 비석들이 이렇게 나라를 위해 싸우신 분들을 기리는 거네요.
근데 지금 혹시 연세가 어떻게 되세요?
내가 22년생이에요.
네? 제가 지금 잘못 들은 건 아니죠?
103살이 되는 셈이에요.
와. 100년을 넘게 사셔가지고.
형님이랑 저랑 나이를 합쳐도 한참 못 미쳐요.
난 진짜 너무 신기하거든요, 지금.
네.
회장님, 저희 몰래 딴 거 뭐 드시는 거 있으시죠?
비법을 알려주시죠.
여기 물이 말이지 산골물 아니에요.
아, 물이요?
그 나는 이걸 30년간을 먹었어요.
아, 그럼 지금 저 셈인 거예요?
저 셈이요.
가보시죠.
아, 이 셈이었구나.
네.
아, 여기 딱 써 있네요. 백세 셈이라고.
제가 한번 읽어볼게요. 백세샘, 100년이 넘는 세월 중 노년의 30년간 이 샘물을 마시며 무병장수하였습니다. 주인, 그때 당시에 101세 김창욱 회장님. 와, 빨리 먹어야지 그럼 이런 거
그러면
말이야.
여기서 이제 나오는 거예요?
이런 거는
저희 막 먹어봐도
네,
되죠?
뭘 먹어봐야죠. 와, 이렇게.
아, 바로 나오네. 선생님, 저도 좀 맛 좀 보겠습니다. 네. 어떤가요?
뭔가 다른 것 같아요.
달라요? 제가 먹어보겠습니다.
느낌이 다른 건가?
제가 나름 우리나라에서도 약수 많이 먹어봤거든요.
뭔가-
저희 막 청송 가면 달기 약수탕 있고 양양 가면 막 오색 약수탕 있고 유명한 데 많거든요.
어때요?
시원합니다.
이게 지하수죠.
예, 치아서.
이게 약간 지하수 그 약수에서 철분 맛 같은 게 나거든요. 근데 실제로 여기 그 맛이 되게 진해요.
예.
아니 매일 드시면서 오늘도 드시는 거예요? 아, 잘 마시겠습니다. 아, 두 잔째네 벌써.
두 잔 마셨으니까 2살 더 살 것 같아요, 그죠?
아이, 무슨 소리예요? 20년 더 살아야죠. 그럼 작가님,
네.
여기는 그럼 또 무슨 산이에요?
이름이 종자산이에요.
종자산.
예.
오,
그래서-
또 여기도 특이하네.
예, 많은 나무들의 그 근원이 되는 그 씨앗을 의미해서 종자산이라고 하더라고요.
제가 이번에 홍천에서
네.
홍천 산들의 기운과 자연을 진짜 마구마구 정말
네.
다 느끼고 가겠습니다.
아,
이번에.
게다가 또 여기 의미 있는 게
네.
여기 있는 지금 우리가 디톡스 여행이라고 있잖아요. 디지털 디톡스.
지금 저는 진짜 핸드폰이 필요 없고 아무 생각도 안 나요. 너무 좋아요. 그리고
그래서 여기는 실제로 전화가 아예 안 터진대요. 그래서
진짜요?
제가 뭐 우리 계속 끄고 했었지만 혹시 몰라서 이제 보여드리려고 하거든요. 제한구역 서비스
오, 진짜네?
아예 통신 X 표시돼 있어요.
가지고 와도 안 터진다.
네, 그냥 디톡스 그 자체인 거죠.
어...
이런 곳에서는 정말 뭐 전화기를 켤 필요가 없는 거죠.
네. 아, 이 잣나무들이 냄새 좋아.
여기에요.
아, 네. 안녕하십니까.
네, 아유 반갑습니다.
네, 반갑습니다.
어서 오세요.
네, 처음 뵙겠습니다.
네네, 저는 손마을의 율지 강사입니다. 네, 남겨서 있습니다.
이름도 멋있으시네요.
감사합니다. 네, 오늘은 숲 테라피를 진행할 겁니다.
숲 테라피요?
네.
숲 테라피가 뭘까요?
테라피는 많이 들었는데 테라피 어떤 그 정의 같은 게 있네요.
테라피라 하면
네.
뭐 많잖아요, 그죠?
네.
이 자연의 에너지와 더불어서 함께 우리 몸과 마음을 밸런스를 회복하는 시간입니다.
아, 벌써 궁금하네요. 빨리 저희를 숲 테라피로 인도해 주십시오.
인도해 주십시오.
네, 함께 가실까요? 네, 그러면 먼저 우리 숲길을 편안하게 한번 걷도록 하겠습니다.
가시죠.
네, 이 꽃이 뭔지 아시는가요?
이게 뭘까요? 일단 노라면은 산수유가 떠오르긴 하는데 산수유 모양은 아니고요.
봄의 전형사로 봄이옴을 그저 가장 먼저 알려주는 꽃이고 노란에서도 알싸한 그 생강 맛이 나기 때문에 이름이 생강나무입니다.
생강나무.
네네. 소양강 처녀 노래 다 아시잖아요.
네.
거기에 동백꽃이 바로 이 꽃입니다.
아,
이제 아셨죠?
예, 좋았습니다.
저희는 그냥 당연히 동백꽃인데.
네.
어우.
또 출발해 보겠습니다.
네.
자,
네, 와.
이제 네 여기가 이제 잣나무 숲으로
이게 잣나무인가요?
네 혹시 피톤치드 향기가 나시나요?
아, 좀 느껴지고 있어요.
이게 미세하게 느껴지는 것 같아요.
네.
지금 이게 들숨할 때마다 지금 막 이렇게 모든 것들이 정화되는 기분이 들어요.
이 사이사이로 약간 이 바람이 너무 시원해져요.
예.
그죠. 여기서 이제 30분 정도 잠만 자고 내려가도 몸이 아주 상쾌해집니다.
올라가서 누워보죠.
아, 고맙습니다. 와,
아,
오래간만에 누워서 하늘 한번 보세요.
우와. 멋있다, 멋있어.
하늘 반 푸른잎 반이네요.
아, 속세에 찌든 나를 버리고 잠시.
우리가 일상에 있을 때는 되게 막 편리한 거를 좋아하잖아요. 불편한 거 이렇게 막, 예, 막 야외에 있는 거를 좀 꺼리는데 또 여행을 나오면은 이런 것들을 추구하는 걸 보면은 그냥 인간 본성 자체가 자연과 호흡하는 게 축적이 된 것 같아요.
이제 옆으로 돌아서 일어나시기 바랍니다.
그래도 옆으로 돌아서 일어나야 돼. 그냥 일어났다가
네.
와.
두 분 얼굴 표정에 그냥 미소가 만연해서 너무 좋습니다.
그러면 이제 또 다음 코스가 또 있습니까?
네, 다음 코스로 한번 가볼까요?
좋아.
아쉽지만. 네.
아니야, 다음 또 좋은 코스가
네.
있을 거야. 지금 이제 여기로 들어가는 건가요?
네, 여기가 유르트라는 곳인데요. 오늘 우리 스님들을 위해서 특별히 준비했습니다. 기대해 보십시오.
실제로 중앙아시아 가면 이런 유르트가 실제로 있어요.
네, 몽골
네.
쪽에 가면은 이동 주거잖아요. 네. 여기가 이제 천막으로 되어 있어서 네. 원형이고 그래서 이게 선마을 내에서는 이게 치유의 공간으로 많은 분들이 좀 사랑을 받고 있습니다.
와, 뭔지 궁금하다.
자.
와, 이게 유르트라는 거예요?
네, 그렇습니다. 네.
너무 멋있다. 이게 다 나무가 편백나무인 거죠?
네, 여기는 미송나무로 마감을
미송나무?
했습니다. 네, 네. 그래서 밖에 천막으로 돼 있어서 비가 올 때 빗소리가 너무 좋습니다. 네, 하나의 음악이죠. 네.
저는 이거 본 적은 있어요. 이게 싱잉볼 거죠?
네. 잘하시는데요.
아, 이게 진짜 본 적은 있어요.
그래서 여기가 7개 금속으로 만들어져 있기 때문에 소리의 파동이 울림이 굉장히 좋죠. 그렇죠?
아, 그럼 이 싱잉볼에 유래가 있을까요, 혹시?
네팔에서,
네팔에서.
이제 수행하셨던 분들이 이제 명상의 도구로, 치유의 도구로 활용했던 악기들입니다. 여기 있습니다.
제가 네팔을 몇 번 여행한 적이 있었는데
네.
거기는 그냥 가정집에서도 구비하시고 정말 이렇게 좀 마음의 치유가 필요할 때 이렇게 하시더라고요.
네.
그럼 명상도구 일반적으로도 이걸 많이 쓰시는구나.
싱잉볼도 한번 소리를 한번 내볼까요? 혹시 우리 선생님은 특히 여기는 이제 다른 사람을 나에게 표현하는 목 차크라거든요. 목에.
아, 이게
이면은 가슴과 연민의 에너지를 북돋아주는
다
소리로.
이름이 다 있네요.
네, 네.
각자 의미가 있네요. 이 크기마다.
혹시 우리 스님들은 어떠한 싱잉볼을 가지고 싶습니까?
솔라 차크라하고 가슴 차크라. 사람과 지금 내가 하고 있는 일에 대해서 현실을.
네.
저는 지혜를 좀 이렇게 얻고 싶어서.
그래요. 지혜로우실 것 같은데. 네. 이렇게 가볍게 이제 울림이 강하신데 여기에서 마음을 함께 실어야 돼요. 그래서 에너지가 연결이 되도록 해서 네, 좋습니다. 그래서 소리 울림이 끝까지 갈 수 있도록 하면은 좋습니다. 네. 그리고 이제 이 에너지의 파동을 따라서 이렇게 원을 그리기도 합니다. 소리 울림이 나고 있나요? 이게 또 이제 집중력이죠. 이렇게 좀 울림을 더 증폭시켜서 강하게.
예. 느껴져요.
네.
소리도 소리고 이 떨림도 느껴져요.
네네.
귀로 안 들리고 자꾸 몸으로 느껴지는 게.
정말 파동이 느껴져요.
아주 좋습니다.
네.
아주 보기 좋습니다.
우리 아이들 재울 때 딱 좋겠네. 너무 좋아.
그 어떤 것도 자극적인 소리가 전혀 없네요.
좋습니다.
네.
또 뭐 코스가 또 있어요?
또 여기 어딘가 숨어 있지 않을까요?
네, 이쪽입니다.
네.
안녕하세요. 싱잉볼 명상이랑 잘 하고 오셨어요?
지금 귀, 몸 막 이런 게 지금 자연이
네.
저를 다 깨우고 있습니다.
좋아요. 저희 그러면 이번에
네.
우리 황토길에서 맨발 걷기 좀 하면서 발로 직접 자연을 좀 느껴보는 시간 가지면 좋을 것 같아요.
재밌고 즐겁게 한번 걸어보겠습니다.
알겠습니다.
가시죠.
고맙습니다.
고맙습니다.
네.
걸어보고 첫발 땅. 오, 시원해요.
네.
시원해요.
시원하고
시원하고.
차근차근
와.
이 땅과 밀착되는 느낌.
좋네.
동물도 알아보네요.
날 알아놓은 거야?
네.
아,
인사했잖아요, 지금.
미안해.
오지훈 씨 아니세요? 지금 얘기했잖아요. 뭐 어릴 때는 뭐 이렇게 그냥 맨발 벗고 노시고 그랬을 거 아니에요?
어렸을 때는 뭐 시골에 자랐으니까 그때 뭐 맨발로 뛰고 뭐 너무 재밌죠.
네.
훨씬 맨발로 놀면 진짜 재밌었던 건 기억이 엄청 많아요.
예. 그래서 친숙한 친구였는데 어느 순간 멀어졌잖아요. 신발과 양말이 가려서.
네, 너무 시원하고 지금 걷는데 뭐랄까요? 되게 차분해졌다고 해야 되나?
예.
지금 뭔가 그 바쁜 일상에 막 머리 회전하고 이런 바빴던 내 머릿속이 뭔가 정리된 느낌?
저도 어쨌든 막 자연과 호흡한다고 얘기를 많이 하는데 진짜 지금 호흡하는 느낌이에요. 딱 닿아가지고. 너무 좋다.
조금 더 걸어봅시다.
네.
저는 이제 손글씨 쓰는 거를 되게 좋아했었는데요. 처음에는 이제 취미로 시작을 했고 이제 하다 보니까 글씨를 쓰는 행위 자체가 정서적으로 돌봄을 시켜주더라고요. 제가 많이 힘든 시기에 글씨를 쓰기 시작했었거든요. 돌이켜 보면 힘든 시기를 글씨로 극복했었던 것 같아요. 이제 글이 갖는 힘이 있어요. 네, 그래서 이제 저도 글씨를 처음에 형적으로만 이렇게 표현을 하고 그림 그리듯이 썼었거든요. 근데 쓰다 보니까 점점 글을 쓰게 되더라고요. 이제 글이 글씨가 되고 글씨가 글이 되고 이 메시지적인 부분이 크다 보니까 그런 어떤 직관적인 힘을 갖고 있는 것 같아요. 이렇게 글씨를 쓰는 행위 자체가 되게 아름답다고 느꼈거든요. 그래서 이걸 쓰는 순간을 한번 예술로 만들어 보면 좋겠다 해서 제가 글씨를 원래는 이렇게 책상 위에서 썼다면 어떤 벽면에 세우듯이 마치 춤을 추듯이 그렇게 이제 글씨를 퍼포먼스 공연으로 한번 해볼까 해서 이렇게 시작하게 된 것 같아요. 외국인 분들도 이걸 뜻을 알지 못해도 되게 아름답다고 느끼시고 예쁘게 봐주시는 것 같더라고요. 여러 기억이 있지만 또 카타르에서의 경험이 되게 기억이 나요. 어떤 분이 이제 보시면서 우시더라고요. 그런 장면들이 어쩌면 저를 계속 이렇게 하게 하는 그런 원동력이 되는 것 같기도 해요. 해외에 나가면 오히려 더 애국심이 생기더라고요. 그래서 세계 시장으로 나가고 싶어요. 공연이 될 수도 있고 교육이 될 수도 있을 것 같아요. 이런 한글을 쓰는 행위 자체가 지금은 사실 손글씨도 잘 안 쓰는 시대지만 오히려 이런 시대일수록 되게 더 가치 있는 일이 될 것 같다고 이제 제가 믿거든요. 그리고 제가 그런 역할을 할 수 있으면 되게 좋을 것 같아요.
Really nice. Okay? Yeah.
welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. A special prosecutor team in South Korea is set to announce the results of its 6-month investigation into former President Yoon Suk Yeol, who was indicted on insurrection charges after he declared martial law on December 3rd last year. Coupang founder Kim Bum-seok has notified lawmakers that he will not attend a National Assembly hearing this week over the company's massive data breach. This is now drawing strong criticism from Korean lawmakers who claim the company is attempting to evade responsibility. At least 16 people have been killed following a shooting on Australia's Bondi Beach, which police say targeted the Jewish community. Meanwhile, a separate shooting also took place at Brown University in the United States, with the authorities saying a person of interest has been detained. We begin this morning with latest on the investigations into former South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol. A special prosecutor will soon announce the results of its 6-month investigation into the former president who declared martial law on December 3rd last year. Launched on June 18th, Special Prosecutor Yoon Suk indicted Yoon and 23 others for their alleged roles in the incident on insurrection charges, with additional allegations of acts harming the national and military interests, including provoking North Korea through drone operations. Special investigators pushed back the timeline of Yoon's martial law planning to November 2022, after uncovering evidence that he had mentioned using emergency decrees. Meanwhile, South Korean lawmakers are criticizing Coupang founder Kim Bum-seok for planning not to attend a parliamentary hearing this week over the company's massive data breach. The lawmakers say the company is trying to avoid responsibility. According to members of the National Assembly Science, ICT, Broadcasting and Communications Committee on Sunday, Kim submitted a statement explaining his absence from the hearing scheduled for Wednesday. The founder said he would not attend the hearing due to official business commitments. Former CEOs of Coupang's Korean unit, Park Tae-jun and Kang Han-seung, also notified lawmakers that they will not appear. Late last month, Coupang revealed that the personal data of over 33 million customers have been compromised, including names, phone numbers, email addresses, and delivery information. A mass shooting in Australia targeting the Jewish community killed at least 16 people, including a 10-year-old child on the first day of the Jewish holiday, Hanukkah. Our Park Jun-an has the latest.
Multiple shots were fired at Australia's Bondi Beach on Sunday, where hundreds of people from the Jewish community were gathered for the start of the 8-day Hanukkah festival. The authorities said the shooting claimed at least 16 people's lives and injured more than 40 others. The victims' ages ranged from 10 to 87 years old. Police identified the shooters as a father and son, with the father having 6 firearms licensed to him. The 50-year-old father was shot dead by police at the scene, while his 24-year-old son was quickly wounded and is now hospitalized. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese labeled the attack as an apparent act of anti-Semitism and terrorism.
Today, all Australians wrap our arms around them and say, we stand with you. We will do whatever is necessary to stamp out anti-Semitism. It is a scourge and we will eradicate it together.
Global leaders from the U.S., UK, France, and many other countries raised concerns and condemned the horrible incident. Shocked by the tragic attack at Bondi Beach, European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said, quote, "I send my heartfelt condolences to the families and loved ones of the victims. Europe stands with Australia and Jewish communities everywhere. We are united against violence, anti-Semitism, and hatred." The tragedy marks Australia's worst shooting in 29 years in a country well known for imposing strict gun laws. Following the attack, major cities around the world, including New York, Berlin, and London, stepped up security around Hanukkah events. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
Over in the United States, at least 2 people are dead and 9 others wounded in a shooting at Brown University on Saturday. A person of interest has been detained. Our 이승재 reports.
A person of interest has been detained after 2 people were killed and 9 others wounded in a shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. Authorities say the shooting occurred around 4 p.m. on Saturday outside the Baruch and Holly building, which houses the university's School of Engineering and Physics. Final exams were underway inside the building at the time of the attack. Police said the suspect fled the scene on foot, but have not yet determined how they entered the facility. At a press conference on Sunday morning, Providence Mayor Brett Smiley confirmed that the police had detained a person of interest. Authorities say the suspect has been identified as 24-year-old Benjamin Erickson of Wisconsin. The city's fire department chief Derek Silva said both victims died at the scene. 8 of the wounded were taken to Rhode Island Hospital for treatment. Police said parts of the campus remain closed as active crime scenes, but the shelter-in-place advisory for the entire campus was lifted early on Sunday. U.S. President Donald Trump issued condolences on Sunday over the Brown University shooting, as well as over the deadly attack at Sydney's Bondi Beach, described by authorities as targeted anti-Semitic assault and an attack in Syria that resulted in the deaths of 3 Americans.
And before we begin, however, I want to just pay my respects to the people. Unfortunately, 2 are no longer with us. Brown University, 9 injured, and 2 are looking down on us right now from heaven. And likewise in Australia, as you know, there was a terrible attack, 11 dead.
On Sunday, Brown University students gathered to mourn and reflect on the deadly shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely this is a huge wake-up call for everybody that, has been affected and just everybody in the country in general. I think gun violence is a huge issue, and this is truly so tragic that we're seeing these events happen over and over again.
The investigation into the Brown University shooting is ongoing, and the school's officials are urging its students and faculty to remain vigilant. 이승재, Arirang News.
A recent report shows more of the younger generation are unemployed in South Korea, with the employment rate for people in their 30s at a record low. For more on the country's labor market, we're joined today by Professor Shin Myung-gyu, an associate professor of economics at Yonsei University. Professor Shim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So a report released recently suggests that while the number of employed young people has fallen, employment among older workers has actually risen. What's your assessment of the current state of South Korea's job market?
Yes, as you just pointed out, this is a phenomenon that is really important aspect of the Korea's labor market. Let me first point out that this does not seem to be a transitory problem if you look at the trend of the unemployment rate per se. The unemployment rate of workers whose ages are between 20 and 29 has been higher than 5% this year, while that of older workers whose age is between 50 and 59 has been below 2%. Given that the average unemployment rate has been stable at lower than 3%, while that of youth unemployment rate has been stable at around 6% for the last few years, this clearly shows that the labor market has become more systematically favorable for old workers than young workers. This, to me, this phenomenon does not seem to improve in a very near future because new technologies, including AI, is believed to substitute young workers more than old workers.
I see, and there's a growing debate over whether the country should raise the retirement age from 60 to 65. Some say it's needed given the aging population, while others warn that it could take away more jobs from the younger generations. Where do you stand on this issue?
While it is evident from the previous analysis in labor economics that raising the retirement age would harm young workers by cutting their jobs, But I cannot be against the policy to raise the retirement age for several reasons. First, poverty rate of old workers is really high in Korea, and supporting for them is now really necessary. According to the OECD, the ratio was about 40% in 2023, which marked the highest level among the OECD countries, and enabling them to work more might reduce such a problem. Second, a problem that the national pension system would exhaust might be somewhat relieved. Once the retirement age is raised, it will be easier for the government to raise the minimum age when the retirees can receive the retirement benefit, which would be helpful to sustain the current pension system.
See, and another major issue in the job market is working 4.5 days a week. Would this hurt productivity, or could it actually improve the quality of life for workers and sort of help them spend more time with their families?
In the sense that working hours is still very high in Korea compared to the other countries, the policy to expedite working 4.5 days seems to make sense. Compared to the OECD average, Korean workers still work more than 150 hours per year. And with the development of the new technologies like the AI, which seems to make workers to be more productive than before, working less seems to make sense. But I think the government also needs to be careful in conducting such a policy because it can polarize the labor market further between workers employed in large and in small to medium-sized firms. Compared to the large firms, small firms have long-standing issues that they cannot fill the vacancies due to the dual labor market structure between large and small firms. And the new policy should put additional pressures on small firms compared to the large firms because it might increase the production cost, which would make small firms even less attractive to the workers. So the government needs to impose more policies to ensure that such firms are not harmed by the policy.
Right, and there are also concerns over artificial intelligence replacing humans at work. What do you think should be done to prepare for the impact of AI and perhaps other emerging technologies on the job market?
Yes, recently I had an opportunity to meet some CEOs, and they raised the issue that they do not have any incentives to hire young workers. Simple tasks like searching for information, summarizing facts, and preparing, say, presentation slides that were used to undertaken by young workers are now easily replaced by AI technology. And also, if I meet researchers, they also say that the need for research assistants becomes lower as a task that are usually done by their young research assistants are easily done by AIs in a more efficient ways. So it seems to be more and more important to make the young workers to prepare to find and learn how to do complex tasks that are complement to new technologies so that they are not easily replaced by the new technologies. In this sense, the government might help the workers to receive necessary education to enable them to do more tasks that are not easily overtaken by the AI technology.
I see, definitely. All right, Professor Shim, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Seoul is currently planning to transform the iconic Namsan mountain into a global attraction for visitors from around the world. The plans include building a 5-minute aerial gondola ride to the summit and an observatory tower to address issues with the existing cable cars and improve convenience for tourists. Our Cha Eun-kyung has more.
The globally popular animated movie K-pop Demon Hunters features Namsan Mountain, a famous landmark in Seoul. Riding the wave of the movie's craze, people from around the world have been visiting the site, but its limited accessibility and long waits for the cable car have been the cause of frequent complaints. This is because a single company has held the exclusive rights to operate just 248 passenger cable cars. This has become such a serious issue that even the government has stepped in to criticize it.
Despite the surge in tourists driven by the popularity of the movie, complaints about the quality of the Namsan cable car service continue. The root of the problem lies in a preferential business license granted in 1961 that has remained in place for more than 60 years.
To solve the problem, the Seoul metropolitan government is moving forward with a new gondola system, using 25 10-passenger cabins capable of transporting more than 2,000 people per hour. With this system, wheelchair users and parents with strollers will be able to travel from Myeongdong Station to the top of Namsan Mountain in just 5 minutes. The city aims to complete the project by 2027, but the outcome of a first court ruling on December 19th, which was filed by the company holding the monopoly, remains a key issue.
If we win, construction starts right away. And even if we lose, a decree revision will still allow the gondola project. So I urge the government to proceed with the revision.
Along with this, a 360-degree observatory will be built at the summit of Namsan Mountain, allowing visitors to look out over the city in every direction. The city plans to revitalize Namsan Mountain into a world-class landmark that goes beyond just representing Seoul. 차윤경, Arirang News.
A rare collection of ancient Buddhist relics, some unseen for over 1,000 years, are on display at a new exhibition in the city of Chuncheon. It reveals the serene beauty and spiritual depth of Korea's Buddhist heritage and documents the Buddha's process of attaining enlightenment. Our Yoon has the details.
The journey of Buddha's enlightenment. A gentle resonance of a temple gong signals the beginning. There are 2 ritual water bottles from the unified Silla period, which were excavated in Samcheok. They symbolize the washing away of suffering with pure water. As visitors walk along appreciating Buddhist ritual objects that purify the spirit, they are greeted by a Buddha who has attained enlightenment. This gilt bronze Buddha statue lay underground for over 1,000 years before being unearthed, and now sits to meet the world. In front of the halo that represents sacred light, the Buddha's serene smile draws attention. It is a 9th century Buddha statue that was excavated in 2015 at the site of the Seonrimwon Temple in Yangyang, and it took 5 full years just to restore it. A video showing the fully restored form of the statue has been recreated using AI technology and is also being screened in the exhibition hall. And this gilt bronze seated Buddha statue, excavated from Mount Coupang in 1930, displays a compassionate and mystical presence amid its splendor.
Bodhisattvas are guides for followers so that they don't give up and continue on their path. To feel the mystical power of such bodhisattvas, their magnificent appearance is essential, and this statue reflects that very well.
Symbolizing the final part of the enlightenment journey is a seated statue with Buddha's chest open and legs firmly crossed, as it radiates unbroken tranquility. The hand gesture with the thumb and index finger touching represents the moment just before entering deep meditation, when the wisdom to see through all things is about to arise. It symbolizes the very fruition of enlightenment.
We hope that as you look at these works, you take time to reflect on the suffering you're facing in life and what must be realized. Ultimately, we hope you experience peace of mind, and emotional stability.
This special exhibition of Buddhist art that will take you on a journey to finding enlightenment opened at the Chuncheon National Museum on November 25th and will remain open until the end of 2028. 이은진, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. In Berlin, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy has signaled a major diplomatic shift as Ukraine and the United States held talks aimed at ending the war with Russia. Zelenskyy said Ukraine is ready to drop its bid to join NATO in exchange for Western security guarantees on Sunday, but rejected U.S. proposals to give up Ukrainian territory. Zelenskyy met with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Presidential Advisor Jared Kushner, alongside German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The Ukrainian leader said any security guarantees must be legally binding and approved by the U.S. Congress, calling the NATO concession a compromise to prevent further Russian aggression. Russia has demanded that Ukraine abandons its NATO ambitions as part of any peace deal. In the United States, one of the top contenders for the Federal Reserve Chair, Kevin Hassett, has pushed back against concerns over political pressure on the Fed. Hassett said on Sunday that if he becomes chair, President Donald Trump would carry, quote, no weight in the Fed's interest rate decisions. Hassett added the Federal Open Market Committee sets rate by vote, not the president, stressing that the Fed operates independently. Trump has said his pick to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell, whose term ends in May, is down to the two Kevins, Kevin Hassett and former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh. In India, a tour appearance in Kolkata by football star Lionel Messi ended in crowd chaos. Fans at Salt Lake Stadium on Saturday ripped up seats, threw objects, and entered the field after Messi stayed for about 20 minutes at the ticketed event, far shorter than what many fans had expected. Videos showed supporters climbing fences and hurling debris as security struggled to regain control. Police later detained the event's chief organizer, and West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee apologized to Messi and ordered an investigation into crowd management. Officials pledged refunds for ticket holders. Jobs website Glassdoor has named the term fatigue as its word of the year for 2025. It cited widespread exhaustion across the workforce. The platform recorded a 41% surge in mentions as workers flagged politics, economic uncertainty, stagflation, and AI disruption as major stress drivers.
As a blast of cold air moved in from the northwest, most regions saw morning temperatures below freezing. But the chill will not last all day. Temperatures will rebound this afternoon to above the seasonal average, and morning lows will return to above freezing by Tuesday. But please watch out for icy patches on roads and sidewalks. And this afternoon, Seoul gets up to 6 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Gyeongju both make it to 9 degrees, and more clouds will be rolling in this afternoon, and air quality will be decent nationwide. Now, this week looks milder than usual with no severe cold expected, and this is actually causing headaches to winter-related events held across the country as we're having a warmer winter than expected so far. But take care and stay safe out on the roads.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insight, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, December 15th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki.
Good morning.
Good morning. Also Niles with us.
Happy to be here.
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Monday, the start of a brand new work week, and while we normally open with lighter topics, today we want to take a moment to address something more serious and refocus attention on an important story. A tragic fire in Hong Kong on November 26th made headlines around the world. So let's take a moment to look at where things stand now. So what's the latest on the situation there, Ki?
Right, so if you take a look at the confirmed fatalities officially so far, it's 160 people, including at least one firefighter who was responding to the blaze. And if you take a look at age range of victims, aged from infants to 97-year-olds, and many bodies were found inside the apartments, stairwells, on corridors, suggesting residents were unable to escape as the fire spread so quickly. And by early December, authorities reported around 31 individuals were unaccounted for, and 24 of them were reported to be in care centers or to be found safe. Yet now 6 are found to be unknown about their whereabouts, and total reported injuries so far is 79 people, including residents and emergency responders, and the estate housed about 4,600 residents across the nearly 1,984 flats are pretty much refugee. The majority were displaced due to the destruction of 7 towers out of 8. And there's currently a criminal investigation going on. Police have made numerous arrests on suspicion of manslaughter and related charges tied to construction, renovation, and safety compliance features, and also anti-corruption probe. Hong Kong's Independent Commission Against Corruption was launched a task force exploring whether improper practices or collusion in awarding and executing renovation contracts contributed to safety lapse.
So it's good to hear that there are many different efforts that are underway. Do you have anything else to add to about what's the latest that's happening?
Right. This fire, unfortunately, is the deadliest incident in Hong Kong in 77 years since the Hong Kong warehouse fire in 1948. Hong Kong authorities declared a 3-day official mourning period starting on the 29th. And so far, there have been moments of silence, and they were observed for the victims, and memorial altars have been set up across the city.
Right, so we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. The massive fire that broke out in late November at a large residential estate in Hong Kong drew international concern, not only because of the sheer scale of the disaster, but because it became one of the city's deadliest fires in decades. The flames spread rapidly along the exterior of the complex, raising global questions about safety standards in high-rise construction and renovation. So today on News Generation, we take a closer look at why this tragedy escalated so quickly and what lessons countries like South Korea can take from it when it comes to strengthening building safety and disaster preparedness. So as we just saw in the video, the fire revealed how quickly things can escalate when safety measures fall short and why this incident has sparked wider concern. And it really raises a question of what allowed the flames to sweep through the complex so fast despite this being a major residential estate. So Ki, what do we know about the factors that caused the fire to spread so rapidly?
Sure, authorities have not yet released a final determination on what ignited the fire. The 42-year-old apartment complex had been undergoing remodeling work since last year, and its exterior was covered with the plastic safety netting and polystyrene insulation, and it was wrapped in bamboo scaffolding and external mesh, and some of these materials are believed to have failed fire retardant standards, allowing flames to climb rapidly up building exteriors, and there were reports of malfunction or delayed fire alarm systems, which may have slowed down the evacuation, and strong winds at the time further accelerated the spread of fire and smoke. And And as a result, serious concerns have been raised over safety standards and oversight during renovation work.
Right, so the renovation materials themselves ended up accelerating the fire, which really shows how critical proper safety oversight is during construction. So now then, what about the layout of this housing complex? How did that impact people's ability to get out or just control the fire?
Hong Kong is actually one of the most densely populated places in the world, and these so-called cage apartments, the housing structure is actually being cited as one of the factors that worsened the fire. The complex consisted of very small units with very narrow spacing. Many of the residents were very elderly, some even over the age of 65, making it very difficult to escape. And despite it being a very highly vulnerable to fire environment, the residents testified that safety management was very inadequate, and including the reports that some of the fire alarms did not actually sound.
So it was a combination of various factors: density, aging residents, and malfunctioning alarms. It really shows how fragile the safety net was. And in a place like Hong Kong, where this happened, like every second mattered at this time. So to understand this more fully, we'll be talking with someone who's been right at the center of what's happening in Hong Kong. So that interview is coming right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is YK Tak, who's lived in Hong Kong for more than 30 years and is a chairman of the Korean Residents Association Hong Kong. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi, this is YK Tak, chairman of Korean Residents Association. I'm happy to be here on Arirang TV.
We're also very honored that you joined us today. So what is the situation on the ground right now, and how would you describe the overall mood in Hong Kong following the fire?
Okay, a fire broke out, as you know, at 32-story, 41-years-old residential buildings in Hong Kong on November 26. The immediate rescue and firefighting operations have conducted. As of December 14, 160 people died, 79 injured, and out of 79, 49 went back home after treatment, and 30 in hospital. 6 are critical, and 24 are stable, and 6 are still missing. It is the largest death toll in Hong Kong's history. And the focus has shifted to securing the scene and conducting thorough investigation. Hong Kong authorities and emergency services responded promptly to the incident. The overall mood in Hong Kong can be one of profound sadness, mourning, and sympathy for the victims. The initial reaction was dominated by shock, and now the public discourse is increasingly centered on questions of why this happened and urgent calls for systemic improvements to prevent future disasters.
So you sort of answered towards the end of your first question. So how have residents been processing this tragedy, and what are the conversations that's actually floating in Hong Kong?
Okay, residents are processing the tragedy in several ways. Firstly, mourning and memorials. Makeshift memorials have set near the site and in public squares, with many citizens laying flowers, expressing their condolences, showing community solidarity. Secondly, sport fundraising. There's a powerful sense of solidarity, with many people donating and offering emotional support to the victims' families. Korean community also started fundraising right after the day the fire broke out under the Korean Residents Association Hong Kong. We raised over $500,000 Hong Kong dollars. It's US dollar about 65,000 US dollars. It is very important and meaningful. There are a lot of companies, organizations, churches, schools, and individuals who took part in this campaign, but no civilian associations participated, like the Korean community. It is our strong touching point that gives our hands to the neighbors who are in need, who are in a difficult situation. This is care, compassion, benevolence, love, real communication and consideration to others, which makes the world worth living together. I had an interview with a local Hong Kong newspaper last week. The reporter said it was a very touching story that the Korean community showed across borders solidarity to Hong Kong. Lastly, social debate. Fire has become a focal point in news and social media every day, driving intense public conversation.
Thank you so much for telling us what's happening in Hong Kong right now, how people are coping. You mentioned some systematic changes are in order earlier, and I would like to ask, from your perspective, what needs to change to prevent a disaster like this from happening again?
Preventing a recurrence requires a multifaceted and systemic approach. I want to make 3 points here. The first, proactive and stringent building safety enforcement. Implement a mandatory, regular, and rigorous fire safety inspection system for all residential, industrial, and commercial buildings with strict penalties and follow-up actions for violations. And clarify and strengthen the legal responsibilities of building owners and managers for maintaining all safety installations like fire extinguishers, alarms, emergency lighting, smoke extraction systems. And number 2, community awareness and education. Conduct regular fire prevention, evacuation drills, and equipment training for tenants and building users. Establish accessible and protected channels for reporting building safety hazards. Lastly, social approach. Review and expand housing subsidies and social welfare services for low-income and vulnerable groups. In conclusion, this fire is not merely an accident, but a symptom of complex and intersecting issues relating to housing inequality, urban management, and social welfare. Therefore, lasting prevention requires going beyond strict inspections to develop comprehensive solutions that integrate housing policy, social support, and urban regeneration strategies. I believe that Hong Kong society can use this tragedy as a catalyst for deep reflection and meaningful change. In addition, I would like to emphasize that we should get lessons from this Hong Kong fire tragedy. There are similarities, such as skyscrapers and dense and old buildings in big cities like Seoul, New York, London, Tokyo, and so on.
I also hope that there will be changes after this as well. And I know things must have been very hectic, so thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just spoke with someone who has had first-hand experience of the aftermath, giving us a clear picture of the mood in Hong Kong, how residents are processing the tragedy and what needs to change moving forward. And just like our Zoom interview said, unfortunately, high-rise disasters like this aren't only happening in Hong Kong. So can you give us an example, Ki, of similar incidents that have happened elsewhere?
Sure. On the 10th, a separate fire incident occurred in Guangdong province in China, where a 4-story building caught fire, leaving 12 people dead. And it's not a recent one, but United Kingdom also suffered a similar thing. It was a Grenfell Tower that is standing in London back in 2017. It was a 24-story public housing tower, and it resulted in fatality of 72 people.
So that really shows how widespread these risks are. They're not limited to just one city or region. So now, are there any other cases that underline how common these high-rise fire tragedies have really become?
Yeah, there was another one to be highlighted this month in December 9th in Indonesia, Jakarta. An office building caught fire. It's a 7-story building, and it went up in flames, killing at least 22 people, including a pregnant woman, as workers were inside working during lunchtime. And the fire spread very quickly through the floors, and thick smoke made evacuation very, very difficult. Just to highlight one more, Arpora nightclub fire in Goa, India, December 6, 2025. A fire at Birch by Romeo Lane, which is a nightclub in Arpora, killed at least 25 and injured around 50. The blaze is believed to have started near the kitchen, and it was quite difficult to evacuate with so many people crowded into one space.
So clearly this is a pattern. So major cities are facing similar vulnerabilities. And here in South Korea, awareness around building safety has been rising too, right, Ki?
Sure. So South Korea has also a large number of high-rise apartment buildings, especially in Seoul, capital. Under the current law, buildings with 50 stories or higher are required to have designated safety floors where residents can shelter during a fire accident. However, buildings with 49 stories or fewer are not subject to this requirement, leading to criticism. The so-called semi-high-rise buildings, such as the buildings that are 40, 30 stories tall, fall into the regulatory blind spot. So as a result, the importance of installing safety in safety areas has gained yet again renewed attention. A notable example occurred in Ulsan 5 years ago, where a major apartment fire took more than 15 hours to bring under control. But despite the scale of the blaze, no fatalities were reported, fortunately, largely because the building was equipped with a safety floor that allowed residents to evacuate safely. Still, this brought a controversy.
So you just told us what happens with high-rise buildings, which is more typical newer buildings. But what about older residential buildings? Like I live in an apartment that was built in the 80s. So are there any growing concerns there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There are growing safety concerns with the aging apartment buildings. This year in Busan, a series of tragic incidents occurred in which young children died in the fire while the parents were away at work. And a common factor in all of these incidents is that they were old and lacked sprinkler systems, which are critical for early fire suppression. And in fact, the fire safety regulations did not require sprinkler installation in residential buildings built before 1990s. So yes, like Sujin, you mentioned, if it's something built in the 80s, it may not have fallen under that regulation. And in South Korea in particular, where a large proportion and the population lives in high-rise residential buildings, such as apartment buildings, anxiety is growing even further.
I mean, it's truly heartbreaking that outdated infrastructure is still costing lives, especially when simple systems like sprinklers could change everything. So given all of this, Ki, so what kinds of safety measures or government actions are now being pushed forward here in Korea?
Well, so in response to this public anxiety following the Hong Kong disaster, the government has moved to implement emergency fire safety measures targeting high-rise buildings of 30 stories or higher. As part of this effort, the National Fire Agency conducted emergency safety inspection through the 12th. And to be more specific, under the law, like I said before, super high-rise buildings are defined as structures with 50 stories or more, or height of at least 200 meters. And underground link complex buildings refer to structures connected to subway stations or underground shopping arcades, and include facilities that are 11 stories or higher or have a maximum occupancy of 5,000 people or more, depending on their designated use. And in Seoul alone, there are 27 super high-rise buildings and 220 underground link complex buildings subject to these safety inspections. And what is more, authorities plan to strengthen education and training programs for both building management bodies and residents with the aim of improving preparedness and response in the event of a fire.
So I'm glad that there are immediate responses to this, like there's inspections, training, and a stronger push for accountability. But on the legislative side, are there any efforts underway to strengthen long-term safety precautions now?
Right. Discussions at the National Assembly have begun on the Basic Act on Life Safety, and this was actually proposed back in 2020, and the law would formally enshrine citizens' right to safety into legislation and be official. Although the need for such law has been highlighted after every major disaster, there has been little progress. Attention is now focused on whether the renewed discussions will finally lead to concrete results.
So that could be a major shift if we are able to finally move towards a legal framework that protects people before disasters happen, not after. So to close off our discussion, then to build a society where everyone feels safe, what do you think is truly essential moving forward?
Well, better late than never. You know, we always do things after things happen. Think about early 90s when the Seongsu Bridge and the Sampung Baekwasan Sampung department collapsed. That was 30 years ago. Not all the disasters caused by either nature or human are foreseeable, but what can be done must be done, especially those old buildings must go through safety inspections like we did before. So now it's time.
So like our Zoom interviewee said, this really affects a lot of cities all over the world. We see high-rise apartments everywhere. So do you have any other ideas about this?
Yeah, I believe that the only way to truly honor and console the victims of such disasters and their bereaved families is to prevent these tragedies from ever happening again, going through all the logistical aspects and safety inspections and emotionally consoling them as well. But the causes of these incidents must be clearly identified and those responsible must be held accountable. And public awareness, like safety measures that we mentioned, fire drills, and must be raised even further, and people need to be trained so that we can prevent this from happening again.
I agree. So these tragedies really remind us that when it comes to safety, there's no such thing as good enough. The question now is whether the lessons learned will lead to real change. And as cities continue to grow, safety standards should also evolve with them, because in the end, the true measure of safety is whether lives are protected not after disaster, but before it happens. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Ki.
Thank you.
And also Niall.
No problem.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
Korea, a globally recognized sports powerhouse. Behind the dazzling achievements, there's always an invisible force at work. With sophisticated materials, cutting-edge equipment, and innovative technological solutions, SMEs in the K-sports industry play a vital role in bolstering Korea's status as a sports powerhouse. By integrating AI technology, they unlock athletes' potential and enhance performance, elevating the sports environment to the next level and opening new markets in the sports industry. Their innovative technology and bold challenges drive the growth of Korea's sports industry, creating a better world through sports. The innovation of these SMEs never stops. A systematic partnership support program is implemented to discover promising sports SMEs, provide technical validation and R&D support to enhance competitiveness, and strengthen the foundation for overseas expansion. At Tokyo Sportech 2025, the technological prowess of Korean companies was recognized. The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, and the Korea Sports Promotion Foundation supported K-sports companies with product promotion and business consultations with global buyers, demonstrating product quality and market potential, and confirming the possibility of expanding into the global market.
저희는 ICT 강국으로서 바이어나 사용자들한테 신기술을 접목한 생활 스포츠 기회를 실질적으로 확대할 수 있는 그 기회를 제공하는데 많은 도움이 될 수 있으리라고 확신을 합니다.
이제 스포츠도 K죠. K 스포츠는 이겁니다.
The joy for all, created by the power of K-sports. Experience the future of the new sports industry through the innovation and technology of the Korean sports industry.
home.